All right, let me make sure this screen pops up. Okay, how we doing, guys? We are going to close up this chapter this week. Okay, gave you guys a little bit of time last week to kind of to catch up to finish up that third quarter. Those who've been with me, and I'm assuming most of you have heard how the fourth quarter is going to work. Just like it has in the past, it's going to be about a month long. So make sure that you stay up on things. And if you have any questions, make sure that you email me and let me know what you need. Okay. So with that being said, let's go back. We're going to look at control theory and social bonds. You guys, your last assignment was to look at some criminal statistics. I always find those interesting. I hope you guys did too. There's a lot to unpack there. I always find it interesting, really, when we get to the cities where almost everybody puts Chicago as number one or number two, and to find that per capita that it's not one of the top five always kind of blows some people's mind. So interesting to see. If you guys have never been to St. Louis, it's in particular it's East St. Louis, which they put in the whole metropolitan area, but that concentrated area in St. Louis is where a lot of that crime happens. So Okay, so I want to go back to speaking of crime and whatnot and how some of this happens and deviance happens. We're going to look at control theory and social bonds. So we talk about what social bonds are. So social bonds are a relationship between individuals and society. Okay, so what is your relationship with society as a whole, but in particular to those around you and those institutions around you? And they're saying that these will play a large role in you being involved in deviant behavior. Okay. So they start off with these four different ways of looking at these four different bonds. Okay. And how they happen. The first one being attachment. When it talks about attachment, the stronger your attachment to groups or individuals, the more likely you are to conform. Likelihood of conformity varies with the strength of ties. Okay. So what are we talking about here? When they say to groups or individuals, one of the big ones with attachment would be, how attached are you to strong relationship maybe with parents? Okay, plays sometimes a large role with one of the bonds that they're talking about here. Um, attachment to friends, school, all right, those types of things. Just the more likely you are to conform. All right, if you have strong attachment with those who are also conforming, obviously you are more likely to conform too. All right, and that plays a big role. So the idea is if you wouldn't have a strong attachment to, let's say, a said parent, you may look for other outlets because you don't find that connection that you strive for. Okay, so commitment, the greater your commitment to social goals, the more likely you are to conform. All right, so once again, what are social goals? So how invested are you in what are our conventional goals in our society? Okay, success, okay, hard work, dedication, all of those things. All right, we know that they're out there. People have varying levels in how they live their lives to obtain those, but it plays a role in how your connection to society. Involvement, participation in approved social activities increases the probability of conformity. We're talking about so being involved, being sorry, the more involved you are in what's going on in society, the less likely you are to get involved in more deviant behaviors. Okay, just think of the idea of if my involvement and just being a parent, okay, and so I'm engaged and fully engaged in what my child is doing and making sure that I'm showing a good example. I'm doing things. We're going different places. We're doing stuff. That's going to play a role in both myself and my children, and maybe not be involved in deviant behavior. Okay, the last one is belief. Um, do you actually believe? Is there validity to the values that are in our society? Okay, and if you truly believe that, then you are more likely to conform to those values within our society. That kind of makes sense. All right, so differential association theory here. Um, Talking about basically you're more prone to learn deviance based on your proportion to the acts that you're exposed to. And there's three characteristics that we look at here. First off, the ratio of deviants to non-deviant individuals. A person who knows mostly deviance is likely to learn deviant behavior. Okay. If 75% of the people that you're surrounded by, okay, are considered criminals, all right, and you have someone who spends their whole life not around a criminal, it's pretty obvious who's more likely. Does it mean that they are? No, because we're all, at the end of the day, we have free will and we make some of our own decisions. But the likelihood is a heck of a lot higher to the individual who's around more deviant behavior. Okay. Just think of the things that they would hear, all that. Just think of the company you keep. All right. You guys have heard that, man, I was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, absolutely. Okay. And that's more likely to happen when you're around someone who's engaged in more deviant behavior. Whether the deviant behavior is practiced by significant others. All right. You're more likely to copy deviant behavior if someone that you love and that you've been grown attached to is engaged in the deviant behavior. All right. It makes more sense. There's a human connection that cannot be ignored with some of these, and the cycle of deviance sometime within a family is something that is real. All right. And so that's backed up by statistics. There's a lot of layers to it. We could get into the argument of why it should be, why it shouldn't be, all these different things, but it's backed statistically. In the age of exposure, all right, younger children learn deviant behavior more quickly than older children. You are still learning right from wrong. You need to be told what's right, what's wrong. All right. Young children will push the edges because they're not quite sure. All right. They'll learn it quick, see what they can get away with, and they'll kind of ride that. And it's a little bit harder to break, but so it is. You are a lot more. Think of a young child. All right. If you found an 8-year-old and said, hey, go hit that guy in the leg and I'll give you $10. All right. And they just go up and hit a guy in the leg and want their $10. Like, yeah, what's the big deal? Okay. Now you tell a grown man or woman and say, hey, go hit that person in the leg for $10. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not hitting somebody in the leg. Well, some of you are probably sitting there going, I hit him in the leg. All right. But you're not going to go up and hit somebody in the leg for $10. I mean, when you know the difference between right and wrong. All right. But hopefully that makes some sense there. All right, so labeling theory, examples, obviously, don't worry about when we get to that, but theory that society creates deviance by identifying particular members as deviant. If two break the norm, only one is labeled deviant, okay? It's the idea of someone breaks the law, all right, and they are considered the absolute worst criminal, and then somebody else breaks the law. Let's say that somebody breaks the law and they come from a well-to-do family. All right. And so people will say, well, that's Johnny just made a mistake. Okay. Everybody makes mistakes. While let's say someone who lives in poverty. All right. Maybe, in our society, maybe they're from a minority group. And so then all of a sudden the mugshot is out there. And then what do people immediately go to? So the idea that we may label one deviant while one basically making that mistake. All right. And so that is what labeling theory is. This would have been a great discussion in class of some different things we would have. I wish we could have had it. But just because of how this works in American society, with just the example that I gave you. So we are going to actually skip this primary and secondary deviance. And we're going to go to stigma. Okay, an undesirable trait or label that is used to characterize an individual, usually denies full social acceptance. So if you are, and this is going to get into with crime, if let's say that you go to jail, okay, and you're a felon, all right, that trait or that label will stay with you for a lot of people forever. But what does that then mean? If you live in a community and you went to jail, let's say for sexual assault, all right, no matter where you go in that community, all right, or within your neighborhood, whatever it may be, a lot of people are gonna know that you were in, let's say it was a high profile sexual assault case, and you get out after 15 years or whatever it is that you serve, 5 years, who knows? Okay, it's going to be very hard for you to ever get fully socially accepted. Maybe within a small circle of those that would not care as much about that. Okay, but for the most part, and it's going to be hard to do. Okay, like for example, how many of you would like O.J. Simpson to babysit your kids? All right, or I mean, not maybe not O.J. Simpson, a bad example, but or just think of somebody who had been, you have person A who they went to jail. You don't know what for. Person B never went to jail. Okay, and there's the two people. Who are you going to let babysit your kids? Exactly. Okay. So the idea of it is there's a stigma with anybody who's ever been engaged, oftentimes in criminal behavior, and it's the same way for trying to find a job. Then, and that's one of the things that we're going to talk about with our criminal justice system is what is their responsibility, okay, with those that are put into jail. What is it that what should be their responsibility with those individuals after they leave? All right. So, that's the segue. What should be the purpose of the U.S. criminal justice system? All right. Um, so, what should it be? So, we have creating a deterrence for crime to remind others to adhere to norms and promote conformity. All right. So, what is this first one? Creating a deterrence. So, to deter people from committing crime. So, if you know that if I go up and randomly punch this dude, I'm going to get charged with assault. All right. So it deters you from committing the crime. Like, I'm not going to deal drugs because I don't want to be locked up. So that's the reason I'm not doing it. So it deters you from doing it. All right. So that's the creating deterrence. Second one is to seek retribution. All right. Against deviants, to provide punishing sanctions against those who do not conform. So it's retribution is this. You've done the crime, you pay the time. It's that kind of idea. So that's the whole idea of seeking retribution. On behalf of who? So behalf of society, on behalf of the individual. All right. If you assaulted somebody, it's for them. Like if you're in there for murder, it's for their family and those to seek retribution, for the safety of society, for retribution for the victims, okay, of the crime. And then last, to rehabilitate deviants to promote social conformity and increase social bonds. All right. So this idea, the rehabilitation. So should it be focused on? We obviously should be, but should the focus be to rehabilitate those that are in there? So, and that becomes the question. There's so many layers to this. So when we talk about rehabilitation, if you're in there for 2-3 years for a nonviolent crime, what should your rehabilitation be? Okay, if you're in there for a violent crime, but you're gonna go back out into society, okay, what kind of rehabilitation should we have for you within the criminal justice system? So that becomes a big part, and even within the criminal justice system, even if you're not locked up, what kind of rehabilitation? If we don't lock you up, okay, so we often hear the cries for or the fight for, nonviolent criminals, those that have dealt drugs. We lock up people for way too long. What should the purpose be then? And that would be maybe a rehabilitation. All right, because the idea of, if we're not going to lock them up, and there's not a deterrence there, okay, that you're not going to go to jail for that, okay, then what should we do? you can't charge them 50 times, okay? So eventually, obviously, that could then lead to a lockup. So the question is, what should the purpose of the criminal justice system be? It's a loaded question, and there could be a lot of different answers for this. So what I want you guys to do in this assignment, okay, I'm going to attach a Google Doc, and I want you to answer this question. Okay, I'm just going to leave you an open blank space. Okay.
I really like when you ask the question.
I'm going to leave you just kind of an open doc, and I'll put type your answer here. And in one paragraph, okay, I want you to tell me what the purpose of the U.S. criminal justice system should be. All right. If you want to reference several of them, okay, if you feel strong about this and you just keep on going with this, that's fine too. All right. But at least give me one good, strong paragraph, 5 to 7 sentences of what its purpose should be. All right. And I'll have this. This is going to post. You guys will see this. It's Monday if you're seeing this. This will be due by Thursday, and I'll be posting a really good video about the criminal justice system on Wednesday. Okay, and then that's going to just kind of close us up with this material. We left a lot off the table, but that's kind of where we're at. All right. So thank you. You guys take care.